technical difficulty.
A lot.
Like what, an hour? The most patient man on planet Earth, James Deere, BTC, Break the Chain, with us today. And the man has gone through a lot. The man has gone through, addiction with, drugs, having had issues from a younger age where he found himself through a lot of struggle and surrounded by people in his circle who were much in the same position. Ended up leaving the country, coming to Australia for 5 years and going into rehab just so that he can really put himself and lock himself into a gear where he comes out of all of that and he pushes through. Now he's running a non-for-profit business where he is solely driven. His mission on the planet is to help and change and transform the lives of the people that were once in the position that he was once in. And now he's gone from being an addict of drugs to being an addict of success. The entrepreneur.
What a journey.
Yeah.
It's like down, 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 up.
Now he's up, man.
It's
And
like, I'm all the way up.
constant journey, as you said. But James, we're thankful to have you here, bro.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. That was a hell of an introduction. It's interesting. It's interesting because I think a lot of people perceive that to be my journey, but yeah, I see it a bit differently to that.
Please share, man. Please share.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously, I left the UK when I was 23. I'll give a bit of my story. There's a big problem with addiction in the world, and I guess mine started from you boys with those headphones or something.
We're on a low budget shoot.
P.S. guys, we are literally in the lowest budget shoot. No, that's for another time. Sorry.
Yeah,
James.
I've tried to kind of track and pinpoint my addiction back, and from such a young age I was seeking acceptance and a place to belong. Home wasn't the worst place in the world for me, and I don't know, I have a habit of seeing things, with a reasonably good perspective most of the time, and thinking things weren't that bad. And a lot of people see my story like, oh my God, but it just didn't seem ever so bad. But certainly with friends and stuff, is I was always looking for a place to fit in, and I just never seemed to find that click. Always just looking for that click, and I was always floating around on the outside of friend groups, and yeah, I guess I started kind of being a bit of a show-off as a kid, trying to impress people or whatever, and that kind of went against me, and I ended up getting bullied a lot.
I heard about one of the stories I read on your blogs with the police car chase and sliding over the bonnet like a Hollywood star movie style.
What's that story? Tell us about that too.
Oh, we'll get there. We'll get to that. Yeah, that's a little bit later on down the track.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting bullied a lot. This was kind of, I guess, in primary school, and when I went to secondary school, I started trying to be a bully, because I figured that if I did that, then it would stop.
Join the dark side.
But yeah, that kind of got even way more out of hand. That ended with me getting beaten badly by 8 lads who were 20 when I was 14 with a baseball bat, and that kind of didn't go. That didn't go against me. But I got in with a group.
Handicap match.
I ended up finding this clique with this group of friends who were badly behaved misfits, and that was kind of when I found that clique, and I started smoking weed when I was late 11, 12 years old or something, which I watched all the stoner movies in the 90s, and it had a bit of appeal to it. But as I kind of went, obviously we all got in loads of trouble and stuff, and when they turned 17, when I was 17, everyone had this desire to use Class A drugs and stuff, and my parents told me if I did drugs I'd probably die. And I believed them that I believed that was a highly possible that would happen. So I was actually scared to. And what amazed me is that the desire to belong and for love and for acceptance overpowered the possibility of dying. Which,
wow.
It's nuts, isn't it? But obviously they did that. So I
Well, the strongest drug of all is the oxytocin, the serotonin, right? You know, pulling you towards just wanting that love and acceptance of people and stuff.
I think it's a deeper spiritual desire that's something that's embedded deep within all of us.
To belong somewhere.
Far deeper than any physical, chemical sensation, even though these physical things within our body do pull us around the place for sure. But this desire to belong is some deep spiritual thing that's within us that we need love and we need to be accepted. But I think that possibly we look for it in the wrong place, and that was you know, I've told this story because, you know, I think it's actually incredibly dangerous to try to belong to the wrong group. Fundamentally, you know, how do you end up becoming a member of the Nazi party? You want to belong, and someone gives you a place to belong, and it just happens to be a tyrannical and just a terrible place that just is going to cause a great deal of destruction. And how do people end up getting initiated into a gang or something? They've got nowhere to belong, and these people give them a place to belong, and you prove you belong to us by doing these series of things that leads you to, you know, a bad place. And that was, you know, some insight, in hindsight, looking back at that, you know, I think that's something to pay a lot of attention to. Anyway, so at 17, I progressed into, you know, using drugs, and obviously they took away all my anxiety. I never realised I was an anxious kid. I never knew that. And obviously when you do something that blocks the world out around you and wraps you up in cotton wool, you like that and you keep doing it. So obviously I kept doing it, started going to raves, had this big scene of friends, loads of friends. I felt great. I felt great sometimes mixed with pleasure spiked with pain, and the pain, oh my God, the suffering, work on Monday mornings, and just the hell, and feeling like you're going to pass out all week at work, but then just for this little glimpse of, you know, like ecstasy for a Friday and Saturday night, mixed with, you know, the struggle, and it's a real struggle that goes with that lifestyle. It's drama constantly. Everybody is it's just drama all around, and feeling not great, and like really bad, way worse than normal people feel on a day-to-day basis for most of the week. And financially I couldn't afford that, so the only way I could afford that was to start selling it. So I started selling it, and that was great, because it was like, you know, I've got some money now, and I'm starting to feel a bit powerful. You know, people want something I've got, and I can manipulate them.
You're the center of attraction now.
Oh yeah, totally. And you think you know, and it's incredibly intoxicating, this status, you know, and
massive.
Money, you get money, and like people want to speak to you.
What I hadn't realised at the time was that I was manipulating all my friends, taking money out of their pocket and putting them into mine for something that they was enslaved to, an addiction, you know, and it was completely, it was bad news, but I didn't know that at the time, and I was just ignorant and oblivious to it. Anyway, to get into the story that I told you about before, and that kind of like, so one night I was DJing in a club, and I'd been awake for, I don't know, like over 24 hours at that point. I was a mess. I drank a bottle.
That's a great start to any night, isn't it?
I drank a bottle of Jack Daniels that day. I was a mess.
Boy.
I had this white hoodie, and it was like, I don't know what the word would be, chavvy in the UK. I don't know what you call it in Australia. Is it a lad?
I understand what you're saying. You call them chads. I know what you're saying.
I look like an absolute bellend. I look like, you know, if you see a police officer would be like, well, he's got drugs, hasn't he? You know, and I had that look about me, and I was just wrecked. So I had my records. I was going into the club, and two police officers said, like, you know, can we search you? And I was just like, shit. I just like pushed them, and I turned and I legged it. I ran so fast. And I just had a big line of cocaine as well, because I knew I had to sort myself out a bit to try and play this set. I had to try and straighten myself out a bit. So cocaine in that situation, believe it or not, is something to attempt to do that.
That's right.
I turned and I ran, and all I could hear was this guy, and he was so close. He was like, "Stop! I'll taser you!" And I was just like, can you imagine how fast I was running back to the car,
especially after having a line, like a bullet.
Back to the car park with all my friends on either side, and they're cheering as I'm going past, and I'm just like, oh my God. And I ran for, I don't know how far I ran, but it felt like a long way. And the other guy in the car, there was two of them, and he went up against the wall, and I jumped and did the Hollywood slide across the bonnet, because he tried to pin me in. I got as far away as I could, and I dropped. There's this massive drop, and I was like, do I do it? And I'm pretty sure if I'd jumped off that, it would have been
Jeez.
yeah, broken legs big
Yeah.
time, and
Yeah.
I just got my shit and I threw it, and the copper grabbed me and he smashed my face off the bonnet, and he was calling me a cunt, and he was hitting smack like
Of course
and,
he would, yeah.
and you know, I kind of that never got mentioned. Neither did the fact that I kind of like shoved him pretty hard to get away, and I kind of like an eye for an eye.
No, that's fair, man.
Oh,
Heck of
man,
a story.
Oh man, and yeah, miserable. And I'd not long before got caught for driving under the influence. I'd passed out and crashed into the back of someone. It's all around my 19th birthday, and I put my parents and my family through hell because, you know, this whole thing was in the paper. They have a family business.
Yeah.
And I was just oblivious at the time. But, you know, after this, like, all my so-called friends, all these hundreds of friends I had, just, you know, no one rang me, no one called me anymore, no one gave a shit. And it was incredibly insightful. And I'd love to say that, you know, I nearly went to prison, just escaped it, had to do loads of unpaid work, and I didn't learn, and I kept going because I was an addict, and it wasn't like I was selling for fun really. It was a necessity just to keep the whole thing going, and that lasted for another 4. I think when I was around 21, or 22, I started realizing like selling drugs is bad, like the consequences. But it wasn't getting caught that taught me that. It was actually like maturity that kind of put that into perspective for me, and actually starting to consider what other people were experiencing around me and what I was doing to people a bit, and the consequences came in a bit later. And when I was 23, everything kind of changed for me, and at this point I had internal pains, like I couldn't hold a piss for more than 20 minutes. What I was addicted to, ketamine, it really wrecks your bladder. I've had friends who've had their bladders removed, friends who need liver transplants, and it's heavy scene. And when I was 23, one of my best friends took his own life, and I was with him the day before, and I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know he was depressed. Because I was so, you know, smacked out that I didn't have a clue what was going on around me, and that just, you know, smashed my world to pieces. And a friend fortunately helped me out of that situation he basically just sorted me out a visa for Australia, and he did all the work, and he got me out of there. You know, bless my friend. He's actually won Entrepreneur. I think, did he win it, or he was up for Entrepreneur of the Year in the UK. He's a cool guy. And he got me out of there, and I got to Australia, and then I think a lot of people think that I must have been to a proper rehab, but I kind of like just tried to figure it all out myself, you know. And that was over the course of the time I was in Australia. But the whole time I spent in Australia, you know, there would be pictures of me on beaches and in the most beautiful places in Australia, and all my friends would have been looking at Facebook. You know, anyone would envy the situation that I was in, and I was an anxious wreck. I was just so unhappy, you know.
I guess, like, you know, because there's so much to unpack there. It's like such a super powerful story. Now, going from all that, man, going from a place where, you know, running from cops on one night, from having a 24-hour, you know, kick on, to having to do all these things, and then, you know, thankfully you had that one friend, right, to push you into support. What would you say, like, you know, looking at where you are now, you're running a non-for-profit, and I've seen all the awesome stuff you're doing. Like, you've got, you know, and our listeners, like the people that we're about, is all about like new people that are new to the self-development gain of growth, or wanting to improve their mindset, their health, their physique, their focus, you know, possibly wanting to start a business, make more money, basically just upgrade themselves to the next level, you know. Like, so how did you sort of, what would you think was the major catalyst to actually get you to jump into doing what you're doing now, and actually being, you know, running a business, running, you know, people and teams, and helping people, and being a leader to sort of really improve and sort of grow in terms of business-wise, money-wise, person-wise? What would you think is a major catalyst?
I have two motivators, the two biggest motivators in my life at this moment as it stands, I've lost 11 friends to overdoses, suicide, and just, you know, like, I don't, like, it's just, I'd love to say it's not normal, but it is. You know, suicide and depression and anxiety and all these things are nuts. I think, you know, depression's going to be the biggest cause of disability very soon. It's heading that way. Suicide's hit an all-time high, especially with what's going on at the moment.
Yeah, especially with COVID and stuff.
So that for me is
Can't
an
even say it,
absolutely
we'll get tagged.
that for me is an enormous motivator. The other one is that, you know, obviously I've personally suffered as an addict, and then having peeled back that layer a bit, realising that I'd also suffered from severe anxiety, which followed me everywhere I went until I found a solution to it. And, you know, having been able to learn to manage that and find the answers to some of life's seemingly unanswerable questions that just aren't in the mainstream at all. People don't know these things, and, you know, I just feel that it's my duty, and I'm called to do that for people and help share them. You know, there was a few things you touched on, you know, in terms of, like, we were speaking about it a little bit earlier. I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily a ambitious person. I've always had a little bit of an entrepreneurial thing in me, but I'm not money focused at all. It's probably actually like I'm a little bit out of balance in the sense that I need to be more money focused because I just don't worry.
Can I stop you for a sec? Because I remember one conversation, and you and I had the chat after we only just met, and I totally get where you're coming from as well. I'm curious where, you know, we said one time, I remember we were speaking and we were saying, I don't know why, you know, we're not in that position now, but I don't know why, but I know that I will be a millionaire, right? Now, I know that wasn't a money focused thing because you wanted the money, but it was just because the process will happen, it'll take you there, right? What makes you say that? You know, what inside of you makes you say that, coming from all the places where you are?
I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but I could be wrong about that. You know, because I'm not a money-driven person, but I just feel like at some point that I'll have an abundance of money. I don't know, or maybe it won't even be me that has it, but you know, break the chain or whatever. You know, I don't like to necessarily make these predictions, and certainly when I set goals or things, I don't like to be too rigid or stick to them, because you know, the way that I live my life is that it's not I don't try and do my will and create my vision. I try and, you know, I don't know what your beliefs are necessarily. I'm not a religious person in the fact I don't subscribe to any faith or religion, but you know, I believe in God, and I've had experiences of something far greater than myself, and I try to dovetail my will with that greater will that's beyond myself. And if you speak to anybody in the world of recovery, the whole process, which I actually found through yoga, I'll step back a little bit. So I, you know, nearly 2 and a bit years ago, at this stage of my life, I'd actually ticked every box that I could. I'd got a nice house, I'd got a car, I'd got some nice bikes, I'd got, you know, a girlfriend, I'd got a job that paid a ridiculous amount of money. Yeah, I had ticked so many boxes. I was, you know, living in New Zealand, going for geothermal hot springs and just hanging out. And, you know, I was going for massages. I was doing, you know, like, it's ridiculous how many boxes I ticked. It's like on a material plane, like I just got everything that I needed to be happy. Yeah. And I'd been trying to crack this happiness code for so long, and I have never been more anxious. I have never felt I've never felt more empty. I have never been less happy than I was in that situation. And I wasn't on drugs. I'd quit drugs and alcohol at that point for 8 months. And, you know, it was just like, what's it all about? Where do you go from here?
Yeah.
You know,
No purpose, would you say?
no purpose. This was when I was pursuing my Amazon business. I
Yeah.
started an Amazon business. Yeah, and it was. My problem was that it was all about me.
Yeah.
That was my problem. I wasn't really. I wouldn't say that I was necessarily, certainly not a maleficent or malicious person, but I was not regularly taking anyone else into consideration and anyone else's welfare, and my life was all about my happiness. And
I think that's exactly where, like, do you know, in every respect of anyone and any person, it's always like, and business as well, is specifically when you do it, you know, you want to give value to someone else in any area of their life. As a businessman, as a person, as a human, that's when I feel like we feel more purposeful, we grow, and you have that mission. Like, I think now that's why you're doing what you're doing, obviously, right? You're out there to help and change people's lives. And like you said before, you said you're not like an ambitious person, maybe in the sense that, oh, I've got all these targets and goals. But when you know there's someone out there that may need your help, may need James Deere's help.
I think he's ambitious to help people, like
Yeah.
not for monetary, but you sound like you're more ambitious to like reach out to more people, connect with more people, and get them out from the depth that you went, and maybe stop people from going there. That's like even better if you just stop them from getting to that place.
I am incredibly motivated to prevent the suffering of as many people as I can, but you know, even that brings up some more problems. It's like, you know, and you there's this savior complex of like, you know, and there's no limit to the amount of suffering that there is in this world, and it's kind of like how do you find peacefulness amongst all that as well? And there's something in that you'll find that's common in any addiction success story, because I know some addicts who've gone on to start some massive companies, have been like hyper successful, go on to like do some incredible things, and there's something that's common amongst all of these people. It's like, how did you do what you did? What was the process? What did you do? And they're like, I don't know. All I did with my life was I tried to make the next right decision over and over again.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's what I do with my life. I ask myself in any given moment, what's the right thing to do in this situation? And sometimes that might be, you know, bad for my material situation. It might mean that if I am honest in an occasion, that I'll lose out on money or stuff or friendship or popularity. But it's, you know, and I think that's one of the biggest qualities of being a leader, you know, is you have to be prepared to make the right decision no matter what in any given moment. And that sounds heroic, but I'm saying that, and I find that bloody hard sometimes. Sometimes it's just infinitely hard to tell the truth.
Yeah.
But not even tell the truth necessarily, but make the right decision in any given moment. It's definitely a practice, something that can be practiced, and humbling as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes you think like, oh yeah, I'm doing really well with this now, and then all of a sudden something comes up and you just like feel like a little boy again. You know, and you can't tell the truth. You're like, oh, I just want to tell the truth, and you're just like, yeah, it's just, oh man, yeah, it happens to me all the time.
That's very true.
Yeah.
What are the like common ones that like? What are the most difficult ones you've had to do?
Oh man. I run addiction meetings once a week, and you know my mum always comes, which is really fun.
Wow.
Because we get to talk about you know, this mother-son dynamic of her, what it was like being an addict. And you know, we wrote down yesterday, we was writing down all the ways that addiction fucks up your life basically. Yeah, and you know, one of the things that came up really big time was just like how much of a liar you are and how you just lie about everything. And you know, when it comes to anything that we are, when we really want something, so in this situation, if it's drugs and we want to get away with using drugs and having this lifestyle, telling the truth in that situation is going to be really bad, because we're going to lose out on our peace and to keep doing that. So it kind of anything that relates to us getting our own way, we find it really hard to tell the truth about. You know, trying to think of a situation. I borrowed a car recently, and you know, it started playing up, and I knew that if I told the truth about this, I was going to lose this car, and it did take me a few days to come out with it, and it did take me a few days, and I was like, you know, I had got that decision straight. I was like, you should tell him about this straight away, and I didn't, and it took me a few days to tell him, just because, you know, just to know, because I was going to lose out on some. There was going to be some material situation where I was going to lose out on something, but you know, telling the truth. Oh my God, I'm trying to think of some good situations. Relationships are a funny one, aren't they? If you're ever in a relationship, man, don't you always go into a relationship like, this is it, I'm going to tell the truth, I'm going to be honest, there's going to be this open communication. Get a few months in and you're just like, and she'll ask you something, and it's like, she's like, oh, was you looking at that girl? And it's like, no. You know, the girl walked past you.
So long story short, times the number by 3, and then subtract by 5 and times it by 10.
It's not, you know, and it is shameful how weak we are sometimes, and you know, when it comes to these lustuous desires, not just of the opposite sex, but of many things, you know. Many things that we want, and the problem with these lusty desires is it just blinds us to what's good for other people, and passion as well. Like, passion's seen as a good thing, isn't it? You know, we look at being passionate, but we forget sometimes that when we're incredibly passionate about something, we don't think about what's good for others.
No, that's right.
You know,
that's right.
So I like, passion's kind of nice, but if it's directed in a good way, yeah.
Passion with compassion, that's what you need.
Exactly.
I think we can talk about how you were speaking about the goal setting and how you do like your decision making. So right now, because you're doing your own business, and then there's no guidelines for you, no one's guiding you, you can't copy anyone, and you can't see other people doing the same thing, and it's still not for profit, but you still need to sustain. How are you managing your goal setting, and like what kind of goals do you put in for your business, and for how do you plan to help out, roll out other people?
It's all been very fluid at the moment. I kind of started out. It's quite interesting how I started my company, you know, because I really wanted to quit drugs, but I didn't know how. Most people seem to want to quit, and I just didn't.
Yeah.
I quite liked it. Do you know what I mean? But like, I liked the tiny little aspect of it where it was fun.
I like it a lot.
But then it's like the reality of it, and it's like I was struggling to see the situation in proper perspective all the time. I knew I had to quit forever. I didn't know how to quit forever, and I did have a reason to quit forever. It would kill me definitely. I knew I wouldn't have made this age if I'd kept going. If I kept going, I had really serious internal pains. I was not going in a good direction, and
100%.
And I started a blog, and it was basically me documenting my journey to quit. And I don't think I'd ever done anything kind of like charitable, or I'd not been a charitable person. And so I shared, first time, openly and honestly shared my story and everything about it and what I regretted, and it was the most honest thing I'd ever done at that point in my life. And the feedback I got from this was just life-changing and profound, and it was the first time in my life that I'd had the feelings like you've done something right. And I got given that vision. It's like, this is what you need to do with your life. You need to do this more. I've never felt, it's the most fulfilling feeling I'd ever had.
I think the beauty is, like, a lot of people talk about, they say, you know, in regards to, and specifically talking about, like, because you started it off like this as well, is when you listen to people's problems and, you know what I mean, and you see, like, what people give you back, the feedback, you sort of start getting the answers, don't you? It's like, it just lit up that signal in your brain to say, oh, okay, shit, this is working. This is something that's got...
This was totally unbelievable, this experience that I had of knowing that I had to do that. Now, what's funny is that I actually instead ignored that, and I listened to my desires and my mind, and I just kept trucking on with this Amazon business and trying to earn a living. And my dream was to go around the world snowboarding and live off my laptop, work off my laptop, having an Amazon business, which sounds wonderful to most people, doesn't it? But all I was thinking about was me going snowboarding.
Still pretty good dream.
All I was thinking about was me going snowboarding. So constantly, if
Yeah.
I hadn't attained that situation, I was always anxious to be doing it. And I was anxious that I hadn't done it, and I was always stressed and impatient trying to make this thing work, and it was all about, in my head, it was all about the destination, and I just didn't give a shit about the journey. And I was just in a world of anxiety. And it took me a year after I had this, maybe it was a bit less than a year, but after I had this knowing that it's what I was supposed to do, to actually surrender the desires that I had, these lustrous desires to go snowboard, and surrender that to do what I knew was the right thing to do, even though there was no financial gain at all. I took splitting up with a girlfriend, and I moved out, and I lived in a van, and I just travelled around in a van for 6 months around the South Island of New Zealand. I just spent every day reading and writing blog posts and making little vlogs and stuff. And then it came out the other side of that, and lockdown was a huge catalyst for everything happening. I was locked in a room. That's when I started the podcast and stuff. And the way people responded to me, and people started messaging me all the time and asking for help and advice, and I felt I was just had this unbelievable meaning and purpose in my life, and knowing that what I was doing had a great deal of benefit to people, and it was during that time I was travelling around in my van that I had a little break the chain sign on the dashboard, and every day I was looking at it like break the chain, break the chain, break the chain, and it was like, and I was just like, right, I've got there's a reason for me to quit drugs that is beyond myself. Like if you can inspire people, and I'll put this to anybody who's in that situation where they have a bad habit or they have a challenge to overcome, is you can inspire so many people by sorting your own shit out in any way.
100%.
Your story is more powerful than any words that you can give anyone, just in the testament to the fact that, and what's amazing is like, people in the world can do this, but if you do this, your friends are so much more motivated because they've seen someone they know do it, and when they see someone they know do it, they know that they can do it too. It's and it's so powerful. It's so powerful. And anyway, so I actually quit, and drugs and alcohol and everything, all intoxication. I just binned it finally, which I never thought I'd be able to do that. And my life is so much better for it. Like, it's just so much better. Not
now you're intoxicated with purpose and passion rather than substances.
And through I'm at danger of jumping around backwards and forwards here, but I guess we'll stick on the kind of goal setting bit for now, and I won't jump back to the other thing. Goal setting financially. It's actually problematic starting a not-for-profit. Where does the money coming from? We're based in the UK. I'm in New Zealand. I've run a few fundraisers, which I'd say that they've been a success in the fact that some people have given us so much money, which is so appreciated and amazing. My friend tried to break a world record just over a month ago, which was he was complete...
World record for what?
Pull-ups.
No, muscle-ups, ring muscle-ups.
Muscle-ups.
Muscle-ups. How many did you do?
He tried to break the world record. I think between them they did 990 in a day. Wow. But Callum did over 600 himself, which is like, I don't know if everyone knows what the ring muscle up is, where you pull yourself up, and then all the way up over and on rings, and their hands were disgusting. Like, there was no skin on their hands. It was like raw flesh.
Beautiful.
And and they raised £1,200, £1,200, which was super cool.
Freaking awesome.
But in terms of sustaining a company, not figured that out yet. I haven't figured out how to do that. And
that's crazy as well, man. Like, where are you getting? What are you getting now in terms of an income then? Like, because if you're doing this, because you're doing it all as non-for-profit, it's obviously to help others, right? Like, do you still focus on Amazon as well, dude?
Yeah, I've kept that going. That's been going the whole time, and I've been actually bleeding that dry to give birth to this not-for-profit, in the running on the faith that it'll be okay. Now, not...
See, that's the thing though, right? Like, you're sort of looking at it like, I think that's powerful though as well, because, you're seeing the potential of future in terms of, first of all, helping people, but then also, like you said before, like you said, you don't know how, but some way, somehow, the money will come back into whether it's you or BTC, right? But I think the fact that you're putting all your effort and energy into it, you know that it's going to grow and come out into something anyway. So it's not that bleeding is like...
Maybe I'm crazy, but I'm prepared to have no money whatsoever, and I'm prepared to sofa surf if I have to, and I live a pretty humble life, and I'm lucky to have a place at the moment, and for years I've, when you've got free from a drug addiction, just to be sober and have your own bedroom, and to live a healthy life, you are so grateful for that alone, because if that was, you've lived down here, so you're already being normal, you're already up here in a sense. If you've,
very true.
But I think what you're doing, it really, not even a market. Market is a bad term because you take money from the market, but there's actual need for it, a very big need, especially in Australia and New Zealand. And I've been here 4 years, and I know friends who've killed themselves because they were into a lot of drugs too. And like, I wasn't even born here. I don't even, like, technically I don't even knew that many people here still in my circle. I know people who dealt with so much addiction, and so many people have tried to take their life away. Some have actually taken it from themselves. So there's market is a bad word, but there's definitely a big need for it. And I think, like, when helping people, you just need find out how you can monetize it a bit. But there's definitely, you're doing something that's required, because just few days back we had a friend come to us, and then he turned 27, and then he was thinking like, okay, he's been doing all this all his life, and now he needs to sort out his money and how he does other things, and he has no guide. He doesn't have people like you. Like, if suppose you were reaching all of these people, they can look up to you and see and do what you did and the steps you took, and you can actually, even just like this video when you're speaking, they can listen to this and connect more. They won't connect to Arnold Schwarzenegger saying like sleep 6 hours a day. Like, it wouldn't connect for them because they never did it. But they would connect to you, and the things like people like you who have come out of it, they're not going back and helping these people. But what you're doing is actually very much required, because they can directly connect to you, and what you're saying will actually make sense to them. They won't be like, oh, they just like virtue signaling me and telling me what to do. It's like, okay, he's been there, he's done that, and what he's telling will work and has worked.
And that's why I think it's so powerful, because he's putting all his energy there, because he knows, like, obviously it'll come back monetarily one way or another, but he's not, the fact that you're looking at growing it because of that help to others.
You have a bigger purpose for your business.
I know that it'll work, because you're doing it with that intention. You don't care if it's making money or not. You care if it's touching lives. And I think that it's only going to nourish. You're not going to stop at anything. If you have to sleep on the bloody grass outside, on the mud, in the wet.
Which I'm sure you won't have to.
But you're willing to. That's the thing. And
willing to give it all.
There's a real reason for you to do what you do. So
I've never had to sleep. I've
Good
never
on
had
you,
to
man.
sleep in the mud yet, and I'm a bit of a princess. I like my basic needs met. As long as I've got a room and a bed, or even a mattress on the floor, I can deal with that. I'll struggle with outside, but I hope it won't have to come that. And it's something that just blows my mind is it's not that hard to help people. I think people think that people get scared of dealing with. I talk to people who are suicidal all the time. It's not that hard to save someone's life. Just talk to them.
Yeah.
People have basic needs. People want to know that they can be in a space where they won't be judged, and they'll be where they can be accepted. Compassion and empathy, forgiving people, Forgiveness is just the most wonderful thing. It's the cure for your own anger. If you're angry and you can forgive, then you can cure your own anger, and if you can be forgiven. And
it's a Dalai Lama saying that if you're angry at someone, it's like holding a coal in your hand. It's only gonna burn you. And so forgiveness is not only for that person but for yourself as well. So it's very important in that sense.
When someone, in your daily life, when you get when someone's angry and it affects you, you bump into them for 30 seconds and it pisses you off, and you can have a bad day.
Yeah.
Imagine what that's like carrying that around all day. Because they're carrying that around all day, and being angry is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Other person to die. Yeah.
I love it. That's the favorite one. Yeah, constantly say that.
Yeah.
I guess like, we got a friend, Ryan. He's one guy that we know, for example, he's gone through some stuff. He's, New Year's has come up, New Year's resolution. I bring this up because, fresh into it, so many people are also probably of the same thing. What would your advice be to someone like that, that is going through similar struggles as yourself, financially, mentally, emotionally, addiction? What would the, major things be for you to sort of give them as advice to get you on track and continue? I think continue is the word, because 1 week in, everyone's excited.
Yeah, and fades off slowly, and then like, do you have a kind of checklist to keep in track? Like every day you're feeling like this, or like some days, because the weekends come and friends come and people give in. So how did you didn't give in? Like, you had the drive, which is we know that by now. But is there anything else that helps you not give in to those temptations?
You can try.
Which is normal person.
You can try and figure this whole thing out yourself, like I did, and you can go through hell for 5 years. Because if you try, you have to replace something with something. You can't be empty. Have you tried being empty? It feels like shit. Cold, dark emptiness within that you just want to run from. You can't be empty. You have to replace it with something. And I was fortunate enough to stumble across yoga and meditation. And there's a lot of stuff out there with yoga and meditation, but quite specifically, back to yoga is the process that I follow, which is reasonably similar to Christianity, the essence of all religion, and it's quite similar, has a lot of similarities. And I stumbled across that, and the 12-step program again is also based upon these principles. And the things that you absolutely need if you want to recover, is you need a process, you need a mentor, and you need a community, because for anything, for trauma, mental health problems, addiction, anything, eating disorder, anything. These things are so deeply ingrained with us that there is no quick fix. There just isn't. Yeah. There's no button you can press. There's no book you can read that's gonna fix this problem. It might certainly.
And so with your website, do you have like a program like this as well and stuff?
Like the process?
No, we have mainly ongoing support, and we point you to resources. Obviously, we have the podcast, and we deal more with the ongoing support side of things, and obviously information and stuff that obviously is constantly talking about this support, and we have the meetings, and we have a variety of different things that do help with all of these things, but we don't have a specific process or program yet, but at some point we will have that, and something that I
imagine you still guide and help the people that are in your system in the same way.
I'm happy to kind of be anyone's sponsor, so long as I'm further down the path than they are. And to keep them going, and so what's important with this, and for anything, is like, there not being a quick fix, is for someone to heal and make any change, even if it's in business or or mental health or being an athlete or whatever it is. You don't, to train for a marathon, or to train for the Olympics, you don't go and run one big race, do you? What you do is you turn up every day. You follow the process, you get the training, and you hang out with people who are athletes. Because if you're an athlete and you go down, hang out with the guys down at the pub, you're going to drink, and it's going to fuck everything up for you. And you will be, and it takes a great deal of humility and to accept, like, I'm really vulnerable, and I'm not that powerful, and I'm not that strong, and I do need to fundamentally change the way that I do everything, and start to gently ease myself into a different direction, and surround myself with people. And here's what I found is so beautiful, is the world of recovery from drugs and alcohol is so cool, like, because everybody's been through hell, and they've realised through the 12 steps, step 12 of the 12-step program. It's fundamentally like a process of spiritual awakening. The 12 steps is, admitting you have a problem, surrendering to the fact that you are powerless, and asking for help from beyond yourself or from a higher power, or however you want to see it. But basically accepting I by myself, I'm not going to unfuck my situation. I really need some help. Going through the process of looking at what I've done wrong, how it sort of affects everybody, and then making amends for things that I've done wrong, following a further pursuit of some sort of spiritual process, and then step 12 is go on to help another addict if you can, and it's all about about service. And if you don't complete step 12, you'll fail.
It's very true. Yes, yeah, I've heard this many times. I think it's as well, like you said. That environment is the biggest.
Very important, yeah. Who you hang out with, that decide your actions, your habits, and the temptation is away.
So what's totally rad about this world of recovery is everybody's helping each other, and you enter into this world where people aren't self-centered, which, sad to say, Western society and doctrine or system, whatever you want to call it, is actually taking over the world, and this system of the Western system is actually based upon greed, envy, and desire, which they're diametrically opposed to spiritual principle, because spiritual principle is all about not being envious, not being greedy, not being angry, controlling your emotions, controlling your desires, controlling your mind. And the Western civilization is saying, don't control it, just go nuts, max out your senses, buy a new phone, go to the brothel, go to the strip club, go to the pub.
This is my kind of thing.
Just go absolutely nuts. Be the best hedonist you can, and you'll be happy. And the more you have, the more you want, because lust is like an itch. If you scratch it, it gets itchier. So everybody's, they're scratching their itches, and they're walking around and they're seeing this advertising, like, oh, you should have this, you'll be happy. Or your neighbour's got a BMW. It was like, oh, I should have a Mercedes. And everyone's going around just completely dissatisfied. And this addiction problem and this suicide problem is fundamentally, in my opinion, a product of the fact that this world is based on the opposite of spiritual principle and the opposite of what's ever going to be good for them, and trying to find satisfaction and happiness in material things which don't contain happiness. They're just atoms, and we need if we want to overcome this problem, we need spiritual nourishment, which comes in the form of love, which is cheesy but gnarly and hardcore at the same time, because none of us know how to love. None of us know how to forgive. We don't know how to put others before ourselves. People are on this love yourself trip, which I see the value in a lot of things, and it helps people on a temporary basis. I see the value in that, but real love is completely selfless.
Totally agree. And you know what I love? I've actually just recently been joined to a Facebook group which is about all of this, this brotherhood and connection, and I'm just sort of seeing how everyone is, in a similar position, whether it's suicidal, because of addiction, because all sorts of issues, as you know, and just seeing the way that everyone connects with each other is like actually been, just myself seeing it is just like, what do they say? Faith in humanity ticked in a way, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's everyone's urging for that connection together. Everyone's urging to sort of be with each other, and that's where your growth is. That's where your environment is, support system, everything. And I think to sort of sum it up, I think everything that we spoke about today is you really just talking about looking at, hey man, what's the bigger purpose? What are you designed for? What are you here for? And I think really it's much bigger than anything materialistic, and it's all to do with love, connection, purpose, emotion, and just being a human, and forgetting all the rubbish and senses we are around, and trying to make ourselves feel good from all these things, So I think, where can we send people down your direction? Because I think there'll be a lot of people that are, in pain and feeling they need support, and maybe they're afraid to reach out. And, you said you've got these weekly meetings, and
How can they join?
So
Yeah.
the best place to actually go to find everything more or less that we do is if you go add us on Instagram and then click on the bio. If you click on there, there's a link that takes you to a load of links of all the stuff that we do, to our website, to Facebook, to YouTube, to our Spotify, and most of the meetings and everything's kind of on there. The website is at the moment getting revamped. So it's a little bit all over the place and a bit higgledy-piggledy, but we're trying to get our head around that at the moment, and try and provide a platform that has a kind of all-round community and feel-good vibe. But what we really focus on is there's information out there on the internet to deal with everything, and you can find that. But it has no value if there's no connection there, and you don't feel like you're understood and cared about. So we focus on making people feel connected, understood and cared about, and we really do, and we try our best to focus on that. So if you want to find us there, it's at Break the Chain World Mission. You can also search www.breakthechain.net, but if you go on either of those places, you'll find all of our stuff, and I'm more than happy to talk to anybody. Because I get it,
So do you do video calls with people as well who are who really needs to hear more stuff from you?
If anybody needs help, talk to me and we'll have a chat. More than happy to do that.
And we're gonna link this all in the show notes, man. And very powerful, man. Like, your story is awesome. You're awesome, and I love that you're out here and doing what you have to do. And not that you have to do it, but what you're inspired to do to help and touch others' lives, man. So thank you for that, bro.
I've been looking forward to doing this as well, Jeremy, because we did a course together, Nissi, and obviously your videos amongst a couple of people stood out amongst everyone. Your drive and your passion, and it really just it stood out. And when you've seen your story and how much weight you've lost and all these things, it just and obviously you must have gone through some shit with that as well, and you can tell, and and you always know when someone's incredibly humble, and it's just it has so much power, to inspire others, and and it's true, and I love, it's so nice dealing with other people who've been through shit. Because when you've been through shit, life's better. Not necessarily for everyone, but
you have the authority to speak.
Because if you're not a good person, then you fall down, and being, trying to make the right decisions in life becomes the foundation of your life.
Totally agree. I think when you understand the pain, it makes the days, the time when you get out of that pain, so much more joyous. As they say, if you don't experience the bad days, you don't know what the good days are, right?
Yeah. I don't think that that's true, but entirely, but there's an enormous amount of truth in it, because unfortunately we're all so blind to what's the right thing, and
just unconscious.
You're more appreciative if you've seen the other side.
I think they say that the truth is like the sun, and it shines upon everybody equally. You can call it what you want, but we'll use the word truth for the sake of the point. But it shines upon everybody, and it's a matter of removing the clouds, and we're so covered by these stormy clouds, and we need to endeavour on the process that removes these clouds and this ignorance, so that fundamentally the only reason why we suffer is ignorance, and if we can find out the truth, then we won't suffer anymore.
That was powerful, man. 100%. 100%.
I can go. I don't want to go. Yeah, I don't know how trippy you want to get or esoteric, so we'll probably leave it at that, because I can really go down a hole.
I was gonna say, I reckon that's part 2, man.
A spiritual one.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely, that would be something to go on to as well, dude. I really appreciate your time, bro. We're going to be linking everything in the show notes, and we'll have a round 2 in the future, man.
All right, boys. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, and I'll definitely have to have you on my show as well when I get it all fired
Absolutely,
up again.
Man.
When I get my immigration situation sorted out, and everything calms down a bit. But,
We're more ready next time.
Exactly.
Life's not easy, and if anybody wants an easy life, then good luck. But we can only do our best, can't we? And I'm currently facing a situation where there's been a real spanner thrown in the works, and I'm just trying to muddle through that. But I keep trying to live life as simply as possible. Simple is beautiful, and just keep on trucking, keep powering through it, because just leave you on one point is that happiness and distress are like the seasons, and they're constantly passing by. And if you live a life trying to be successful, wealthy, happy, any of these material situations, confident even, any of these things are passing by like the seasons. And all we need to do is, when we're feeling weak or unconfident, or things aren't going our way, to just sit back and let it pass, because you can't stop good times from coming. You can't actually stop it from coming. It's going to come. It's just a matter of time. So when shit gets hard, just batten the hatches and ride the storm.
Just remember what Gandalf said in Lord of the Rings. You shall. Oh, and he said you shall not pass.
Come on.
This too shall pass. Oh, I messed up.
That from the Bible.
Yeah,
Which one was the one?
That's from the Bible.
This too shall pass. Which one?
This
where's
too
that
shall
from?
pass. That's exactly it. But Gandalf's going to get bored eventually. He's old. He's not going to be there forever. And when Gandalf's fucked off, then we'll get through. But sometimes we've got to wait. So batten the hatches.
That was a good one.
I need
Nice.
to get Gandalf.
We need to get Gandalf on this podcast.
Out of the way.
Mate.
If somebody knows Gandalf, hook us up. Get him on.
You might have to.
Take it
have
easy,
to
my
settle
brother.
for Frodo. I don't know.
I reckon I know a couple guys that look like Frodo, so we might.
Well,
be
you
able to
do
get
with
him
your
quiet.
goblin, yeah.
Thanks, bro.
All right, boys. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
James, take care,
Thanks.
brother.
Take care, bro. See ya.